A little girl from a broken family reluctantly packs her bags.
She started getting real nervous.
Her mom claims she's nervous over her dad having custody for the weekend.
What are you gonna do if Daddy doesn't bring me home?
And those fears were about to become real.
And she said, I'll see you at 5 o'clock, right, Mama?
When 11-year-old Bethany Markowski disappears, forever haunting her distraught mother in Tennessee.
She's sweet and funny and has an attitude. She has a very good heart.
It took nearly 2 decades before Bethany's mother, Johnny, was even able to openly speak about her daughter, who vanished without a trace.
After a while, you don't remember what their laugh is like or what they smell like. I guess I miss her smile the most. She always had a big smile on her face.
But memories, Johnny says, aren't so wonderful of her ex-husband, Larry Markowski, Bethany's father. Johnny says the deception began when she got pregnant while they were dating.
Well, he told me he was married, but he was separating his wife. And the truth was, he was still living with her. And on the weekends that I came, he was making her 2 kids walk down the street and spend the weekend with her sister. We even drove past this little boy and girl one time, and they were waving, and I waved at them, and I said, oh, those kids are so cute. They were his kids. He never said a word.
Despite that, they eventually married and Bethany was born. But Johnny claims Larry wasn't always a doting father.
Very controlling, and very abusive. It started off as just kind of shoving and choking and slapping.
At the time, Johnny filed a restraining order against Larry, which the court approved. And in divorce documents, the court referenced inappropriate marital conduct. Larry was never arrested or charged with physical abuse, but Johnny still claims she felt increasingly unsafe for both herself and Bethany.
It was hard to leave, and not because I loved him. It was hard to leave because I was scared. I just couldn't let Bethany go through that, so I had to figure out a way to get out.
And one morning after Larry went to work, Johnny seized her chance to escape.
Walking out that door for the last time was probably the scariest thing I ever did. I ran and got in the car and went to Bethany's school. As soon as she saw me, she yelled across the parking lot, "Are we leaving, Daddy?" She had a big smile on her face.
But with nowhere to live, Johnny and Bethany moved in with Johnny's sister, Lori, in Nashville.
She seemed to be distracted, except on the days when she had to talk to her dad. Things that he was saying, 11-year-olds should have been having to hear or deal with. He'd say, "I can't believe you're doing this to me, Bethany. You know, do you want to, you want to kill me?"
After Johnny enrolled Bethany in a new school and kept the location secret, she claims Larry found out.
Larry went into the back of the school, went into the room, grabbed Bethany and started dragging her out. He shoved the teacher out of the way. He was dragging Bethany down the hallway when some other teachers heard the screaming and hollering and jumped out and got Bethany away from him.
This letter, allegedly written by Bethany's teacher, states, "He then took her by the arm and started quickly taking her from the room, pushing me aside." Johnny immediately requested a temporary restraining order against Larry. Although no contact was allowed between Bethany's parents, Larry was awarded unsupervised visitation with Bethany on weekends.
Bethany told me that according to Larry, when he picked her up Friday, he was going to take her to Gleason, to where our house was, and pick up a friend of hers, and he was going to take them skating in Jackson.
After the weekend of visitation, the plan included Larry dropping Bethany off with her aunt in Waverly at 5 p.m. on Sunday.
I talked to Bethany at 9:38 Sunday morning, and Bethany's voice was shaking, and she was like, "Mama, Daddy knows you have a boyfriend." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I could hear Larry in the background. "Tell her," and he's hollering and stuff. And she said, "I will see you at 5 o'clock. Not an easy last conversation.
Johnny remembers every detail because 5 o'clock would come and go forever. Larry Markowski's visitation privileges for the weekend were just about up. Because of a no-contact order with Bethany's mom, he had agreed to drop off the 11-year-old with her aunt in Waverly at 5 p.m. on Sunday, who would bring her back home. but Bethany never made the 5 p.m. deadline. When Aunt Lori called Larry, he told her Bethany was missing. When questioned by reporters and police, he claimed she went into the local Old Hickory Mall while he stayed behind in his car and fell asleep.
We looked at all the security footage that they had. We found no one that saw Bethany Markowski at the Old Hickory Mall. We were never able to corroborate what Larry said about Bethany being at the mall.
Special Agent Kathy Ferguson from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation began looking into the now decades-long cold case when she was a detective for the Jackson, Tennessee Police Department. Investigators were stumped and no charges were brought against Larry Markowski for Bethany's disappearance.
Until we find evidence to suggest otherwise, I'm going to believe that she's alive somewhere.
Could this woman hold the key? Police received a tip that led to this sketch of a woman reportedly seen with Bethany shortly after vanishing.
It was a sketch of, I think, a 40-something-year-old woman that tried to enroll her in a school.
It does look like a family member, a distant sister-in-law that I wasn't real close with and only had met a few times. And whether that is her or not, I don't know. It just looks familiar.
The sketch is one clue citizen journalist Brandon Barnett investigated for his podcast, Searching for Ghosts. He also interviewed a friend of Larry's who claims Larry and Bethany were at his house in Little Rock, Arkansas, the night before she disappeared.
Larry wasn't letting her out of his sight. Looking back at it, it was kind of like he was afraid she was going to tell us something that he didn't want us to know.
But Larry did spark some eyebrow raising with his own unsolicited comments, according to Barnett.
He said to me, he said, well, I'm going to take my van down to the Port of Mexico and leave it down there, and you can have it. You just come get it, it'll be yours. And I said, but the FBI will go right into Mexico and pick your butt up.
So how did Larry explain everything to Special Agent Ferguson? She says he never has.
In the 17 years I've worked this case, I have not spoken to Larry.
He's the only one that has that answer. He's the only one, and he's not talking.
But we wanted to hear Larry's story and paid him a visit at his remote farmhouse in Tennessee, looking for answers.
They've got a podcast going saying that I'm a mean villain of a human being.
Larry refutes accusations that he's been uncooperative with the search for Bethany.
I was going to go on the Montel Williams show. I was called right over to my brother's house, and TBI told me not to do it right after Bethany disappeared because he said it would jeopardize the case.
And about his alleged plan to dump his van at the border?
I'm a truck driver. I drove all 48 states of Canada. If I was going to go to Mexico, wouldn't I not left Little Rock and went to Mexico? And I dang sure wouldn't have took my van down there and called my so-called buddy Harold to come and get the van. Nothing was ever said like that. It's a witch hunt, and it's a pack of lies is what they're saying.
Larry has never been arrested or charged with any crimes in connection with the disappearance of his daughter and maintains that he is as worried about his missing daughter as everyone else. As for Larry's theory about the woman in the police sketch,
The woman looked like Johnny's mother. If they don't have her, then somebody took her. I don't care how they smear me. All I care about is my daughter. I love my daughter with all my heart.
No one has been charged in Bethany's disappearance. Anybody could be a person of interest. We have no evidence to suggest that Johnny was involved in Bethany's disappearance. With regard to Larry, there are investigative steps that we took early on in this investigation and continue to take to this day. We've had hundreds of sightings, reported sightings of Bethany, and they were all vetted and none were her.
the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children recently released this age progression photo of what Bethany might look like today. She would be 35 years old if she's still alive, something her mother still desperately clings to with all her heart.
It's so hard for me to believe that it's going to end like this. It's not going to end like this. Bethany's going to come home.